A man or woman who retires does not go through a lot of suffering to be paid. But the law is there. 30 days after retirement, you ought to be paid. So it's the enforcement again. The cumulative effect of this, we are going to have a sick nation. Literally sick. Nchi ya watu wagonjwa. A country like that cannot move forward. But here we stop at the first one, where is give young people money.
Okay.
And they are doing nothing. Walking on the roads and even laughing. Sometimes I stop and ask them, they laugh. They say, this is our government.
And you're just in time for yet another edition of Business Glide here on Herman Manyora's channel. My name is Richard Mwenja. Now, in the first part of our edition covering welfare state of Kenyans, we touch on an array of issues and the bottom line, the basic factors that needed to be considered. Now, coming to the conclusion of that debate, or rather conversation with none other than Professor Herman Manyora, we look at systemic failures towards fully implementing these policies and what can be done. A raft of policy measures have been set, with the latest being President Kenyatta's promise on improving living standards of people, as was highlighted in his Mashuja speech. But will these just be good policies on paper, as we have witnessed with many before? But before we get to that, allow me welcome our renowned public scholar, Herman Manyora. Professor, welcome on set.
Thank you.
All right. In a drive to curb the unemployment crisis in Kenya, with over 3 million youths are not employed, we saw initiatives such as the Kazi kwa Vijana and Kazi Mtaani initiatives being launched. However, if you analyze their performance, because I've done so, they experience spectacular failures. And the reason I'm saying this is because of delayed disbursement of funds and also wages at the end. Now that we see Kazi kwa Vijana coming back into the picture, should we expect the same challenges in there? You know,
there is nothing new about coming up with stimulus packages.
All right.
There's nothing new with creating some avenue through which unemployed youth. The best example in history would be the approach to getting out of the Great Depression.
All right.
What the Americans did, and I think many other countries did, especially America, I think, was to come up with public works.
Absolutely.
Now, there must be two elements, which is why this one of ours is laughable.
All right.
You are giving youth an opportunity to put a shilling in the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
All right.
That's why you are doing something which maybe wasn't even necessary, or if it was necessary, the time to do it wasn't now.
Not the right time.
Or if you had money, it had a better place to go other than that work. Okay. But look here. The second important thing about this, other than putting money in the money in the pocket of the young people, is the aspect of its usefulness. It is
usefulness.
So you get into public works that have good. But here we stop at the first one, where is give young people money.
Okay.
And they are doing nothing. Walking on the roads and even laughing. Sometimes I stop and ask them, they laugh. They say, this is our government. It is feeding us. That is foolish. As if there is nothing they can do. There are things they can do. Things of benefit to the economy, to the society, to the country. Actual work. Actual work. Let them work on projects. Let them go to some place and they construct a dispensary. You get it?
All right.
Because there are certain jobs that can be labor intensive. Instead of being machine or capital intensive, they can be. You put them on projects that are labor intensive. Let them work. After 6 months, you can see a building is up. You get it? A road has been done.
All right. Talking about, sticking to the context of the U.S. financial crisis of 2008, we saw the Obama presidency come up with policies such as unemployment benefits for all those who were phased out of jobs, and also allowances for those disabled. Such policies, are they far-fetched to be placed in our landscape here in Kenya? So that we have a program whereby anyone who is semi-skilled or skilled but is out of any form of employment, either self or formal employment, should at least get such allowances and upkeeps from the government.
You cannot invent another wheel.
Okay.
These things have worked. I've given you. They have worked in many places. They continue to work in many other places.
Why are they not working here?
The idea is, the principle is, take care of those
Okay.
who are vulnerable, the unemployed, the elderly, the disabled. This is a practice, a global practice. How you implement it, however, is what differentiates you from serious people. We do it in a cheap way.
But how do we do the listing of those who are vulnerable? How do we pick them from a mass of about 8 million Kenyans who are living under the poverty line?
I told you, I think it's you I was telling in the last show.
All right.
Kenya National Bureau of Standards. I don't like that name. I like the earlier one. CBS, Central Bureau of Statistics.
Okay.
They have all the figures. Ask them what you want. How many people have degrees? Where are they found? The bulk of them are in Nairobi. How many have degrees and are not? They have everything. They have all the facts.
All right, sir. Kenya's public debt has risen to significant levels, and it's now getting out of touch. Should we bank our basis on not really upscaling our welfare to our citizens just because the taxman doesn't have surplus to give to the Kenyans in terms of welfare?
The taxman must be innovative and collect more money in a good way without overtaxing people. Really? That we have said. The government, the man in the treasury must come up with ideas to raise resources without necessarily taxing Kenyans. Loans we shall continue to borrow, but use effectively and stop theft. When all these things are done, there will be enough money for us to create opportunities for Kenyans. The worst thing somebody wants is to be on the dole in countries where these things are given.
Okay.
A man doesn't want to be given free food. You want to work for it. There's dignity in labor.
Okay.
That's how God made you if you believe in God. A man must work. A woman needs to work. Not to sit down and you are given. Well, this is embarrassing.
How do you term the issue of our retirees, our senior citizens, having earned their money or rather funds through toil and labor, and diligently so, now being duped to their retirement savings? Should we set a policy that will protect the retirement packages of all our senior citizens, as is the case with what Obama did after the financial crisis, so that we at least stem cases of investment companies and property development initiatives canning majority of Kenyans?
Give credit to government in that regard.
How?
Today there are laws in place and policies to protect pensions from fraud, from poor investments,
all right,
including NSSF. In the past, NSSF money was used by crooks. Today, you can't just use it like that.
And how do we ensure our financial advisors act in the best interest of these clients who are now our senior retirees?
That's what I'm saying. There are laws in place.
Okay.
They are where you can invest and where you can't invest. There are manners of investment of pension funds that restrict you in terms of what you can do. You get it?
All right.
So the legal regime is now in place. What we need is to better them.
All right.
What we also need is to ensure, especially with the government, that a man or woman who retires does not go through a lot of suffering to be paid. But the law is there. 30 days after retirement, you ought to be paid. So it's the enforcement again.
Okay.
And then I'm saying, comparing now the ecology of pension as to what it was 10, 15 years ago, what we have is excellent in comparative terms. So what we need is to proper enforcement. But the laws are in place.
All right.
Yeah.
Taking into consideration issues around our labor force, we have seen several spectacular failures in terms of collective bargaining agreements seen the light of day, talk of that of lecturers, etc. Going forward, how do you ensure that we protect the voice of such laborers when it comes to safeguarding bargaining agreements?
Government is always going back against its word.
Okay.
It enters into a CBA, collective bargaining agreement. When the time to implement that CBA comes, government becomes clever. And that coming from a government is really bad. Sometimes government even takes such a games to court.
Okay.
And our courts don't help it. They make matters worse. The Constitution guarantees workers the right to picket, to go on strike, to bargain. And once this has been processed up to registration, because a CBA is then registered finally in a court, government should not go against it. So we only want to advise government to keep its word. You know, because if government doesn't keep its word, who will? But more importantly, the problem we have in this country, and we'll continue having people going on strike in the public sector, is that we have unrealistic wages. What happens in places like Japan and other developed countries?
True.
They have looked, like I said in the last show, what is the minimum wage a person in Kenya can live on? And then you go sector by sector, which is what SRC was supposed to do, which they has not done. You get it? They are too weak. They have not done it.
Right.
Once we have realistic salaries and we start from there, the next is measured by the poverty index and economic development and inflation.
Okay.
So you don't even need to have a union to you just look at the inflation rates and you adjust salaries accordingly. And in stable societies, in stable economies, the adjustment is in terms of 0 point something, maximum 2%. But here we have salaries, people demanding salaries of 200%. Because the best salary itself is unrealistic. So we create the right best salary. After that, we look at economic indicators, poverty lines, and more so inflation rates. Then we just adjust salaries every year to correspond to the inflation.
To match the inflation.
Yeah. So they don't even need unions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, a health state of any country is really critical to performance of its economy. Recently, actually last week, we saw the Kenyatta National Hospital raise its consultation fees from 650 shillings to upwards of 1,150, amongst other levies. And this is in an aim to boost their revenue collection from patients' fees. In as much as President Kenyatta has rolled out initiatives such as 50 new level 3 hospitals spread throughout the country. Going ahead, shouldn't we look at a forum, or rather at a front whereby we are significantly reducing access to healthcare and also affordability, other than raising some, and also on the other side, we are trying to look as though we are really reducing our accessibility to healthcare?
The poverty levels in this country and the incomes of citizens of this country will only tell you one thing. Kenyans cannot afford healthcare. Period. Even these rich people you see, if you go to these big hospitals, they are on insurance or their employers. If I go to hospital, you find me in Nairobi hospital, it will not be me paying, it will be the University of Nairobi paying. Because I can't afford. I can't even afford the insurance.
But we have massive equipment lying there.
No, that's why I'm making a point. The point I'm trying to make is that tells only one story. And you must arrive at one conclusion. That this country can only have free health services. Free. Otherwise, we will pay for this in the years to come. We are going to have a lot of Kenyans inflicted by lifelong diseases, because even going for a checkup, how many people go for a checkup?
Few.
You only go there when you are down. You go to hospital because you are sick, not to see a dentist as a routine, because you don't have the money. Finally, the cumulative effect of this, we are going to have a sick nation. Literally sick. Nchi ya watu wagonjwa. A country like that cannot move forward. And that's what I'm saying. They demolish things like NHIF, which is a fraud.
Okay.
And they offer free public health care, quality, free. It is done in even poorer countries than ours.
All right. In as much as we are trying to bring substantial reforms in the education sector, we are seeing areas such as Suguta Valley and Olmoran in Laikipia. Basic education literally means learning how to use a gun. And this has catapulted a situation whereby we also have insecurity. And security state of a country goes in tandem with its economic performance. How do you leverage on this front?
You know, government will need to use less force.
Okay.
At least not force of the muscle and the gun. Mm-hmm. You must have a cultural understanding. Mm-hmm. Government should employ experts to tell them how to handle those problems. Some of these things are culturally bound. Mm-hmm. If you go to a society where you can't marry unless you go for cattle rustling and bring animals. look here, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you go to a society where you are not a man until you have done a certain thing, and then you are sending soldiers there. If you do not understand terrain, we have lost soldiers in those areas simply because we send there military people, we send there policemen who have no idea of the terrain. Yet this country has serious geographers. You get it? So now what I'm saying, in order to handle crime, castle rustling and things of that nature in those hostile environments, we need a multi-pronged approach.
All right.
We need to have experts from different fields to help government know how to kind of sort out those problems.
All right, the very last, Professor. Is re-engineering the public mindset, the public service mindset towards welfare packages of its citizens, the silver bullet we've been longing for as a country?
Yeah, the public service must know at the end of the day they serve the people.
Okay.
If you have gone to the office and at the end of the day you have not served the people, it's a waste of time. So serve the people in such a way that even when you yourself retire in the evening, you are happy. When you retire from service after 60 years, you are also happy. But in other words, we are also saying, create an environment where those who leave service are also happy, just as you will be happy when you leave. And create an environment in the country where people feel they are feeling the public service, that the public service is serving for them. Remember, Richard, it is a public service that keeps society stable. Even in countries where governments fall even after 3 months. You know, places like Israel, places like Italy, yeah, you know, sometimes even India. This prime minister arrangement, parliamentary system, governments can fall anytime, but the public service remains steady and holds the country together.
All right. Thank you, Professor. Well, that's where we wrap up our conversation today on the state of Kenyans' welfare. But remember, this conversation is too wide and huge that we cannot cover it up in either 1 or 2 editions. But that's why Business Glide exists. We take it a day at a time and ensure at the end of our season, we will have covered all matters, economic policies that you, as a citizen, need to know. But as is our norm here, before we leave, we have to give credits due to our fan of the week. And today we go all the way to Atlanta, Maxwell Kiplagat. Professor.
Maxwell Kiplagat from Atlanta, Georgia.
True.
Thank you very much for watching and listening and subscribing. Tell more people in America, especially the diaspora,
all right,
to join us and be part of the family. Thank you very much.
All right, make sure this conversation goes on beyond here. I'm at Mwenja Richard on Twitter, at Manyora on Twitter as well. And also, we appreciate your feedback each day. Until next time on Business Glide, see you.